Hello, everyone. My name is JT the Talking Head. You are the audience, and you are listening to episode 13 of the Masters of Matinee podcast, a collaborative show between content creators who all share a great love for cinema and a passion for physical media. Our co host today is Drewbie's Doobie's Movies, and we're talking about the bodacious biome of biopics, discussing everything in the based on a true story genre from Walk the Line to Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. The Masters of Matinee would like to remind you to please silence your cell phones and do enjoy the show. Rolling, rawhide.
Right.
Going on, everybody? Masters of Matinee with Drewski, Drewbie Doobie movie. How's it going, buddy?
Doing amazing. How are you doing today?
I'm not quite on your energy level yet. Are you a morning person?
I mean, yeah, I tend to get up a little earlier than the average.
We're at recording at 11 a.m. right now, and my dog is walking around, even though I told her to go to bed. So if you guys hear nail taps in the background, forgive, please. But so we're kind of talking about biopics today. Kind of a loose subject because there's so many that you can choose from. We were talking briefly about how many there are. How many did you say he Googled like the best biopics? How many did it say?
It gave me a list of the top 75 biopics, so there's probably more than 75.
Oh, I'm sure. Man, like, so unknowingly, I had started watching biopics last month before any of this started. And I watched one or two before this, but what kind of got Drew and I on this idea to make an episode about it was we were talking about Walk the Line, the Johnny Cash story.
Sure.
And we were I had reviewed it on Letterboxd, 4.5 stars. And I said the best biopic ever made, perfect casting, wonderful direction, awesome cinematography. Just brief because I love the movie. It's one that I always grew up with watching. Um, and then Drew said that he used to love the film, and then he found out about how they had whitewashed not June, Vivian.
Vivian, yeah.
And he doesn't feel the same about it. So that sent me down a rabbit hole about doing a bunch of research. And long story short, according to Vivian and Vivian's daughter, Vivian did not know that she was black. She was always thought that she was like descended from Italians, and she had darker skin, even though it was lighter. And like in the '60s, whenever Johnny got arrested and stuff, the newspapers and stuff like darkened her, like made her look darker than she actually was to like spread this narrative that Johnny Cash was married to a black woman, which at the time this is pre-civil rights, so it was illegal to have a mixed race marriage. And if you ask me, I personally believe that maybe they did know that she was black, and they spun that narrative that she was full Italian, and then she just, even in her memoir, which is what Walk the Line was based off of, she kept that secret to her grave. So
Yeah.
like that's kind of how I feel about it, but you can't really I don't think you can confront the movie about that because the movie was made, it released right after she died. So she didn't get to see it, but it was being made when she was still alive. And
Okay.
apparently her daughter didn't know that she was African because in I think it was 2020, there was a big ordeal with her where she took like one of those like ancestry tests, a blood test and or a spit test or whatever, and came back that I think it was Vivian's great grandmother was a slave. And so the fact that it was her great grandmother that was a slave kind of does further my belief that, I mean, Vivian probably knew about her great grandmother. I mean, it's not like you're tracing your lineage back super far with a great grandmother. Like I'm sure her mom or her dad knew their grandparent and would have known they were a slave and would have known they were black. So that kind of
Yeah.
makes me feel like maybe Johnny and Vivian had withheld that information because of the time. But I don't know if you can
Yeah.
front the movie for that. But that got me thinking about, biopics and stuff, and about how they're misrepresented, and how a lot of them are filled with misinformation and stuff about these people's lives.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. It takes a really good biopic to really do the research and really go in and get everything right, especially like I don't know, I'm more like the biopics that are just focusing on like a person in a particular point in their life, not necessarily like, oh, give me this whole person's life. Like let me go through this person's life. Like I don't really like those long drawn out stories. Like I like the more intense, like we're focusing on this person at this moment in his or her life. And I rewatched The Darkest Hour and a huge World War II kick, and it was real interesting because you literally just follow Churchill for like the whole movie. That's all you're doing, and he's the only one that wants to do anything about Germany. He's the only one that wants to attack. Everyone else is trying to make deals and have peace. And he's like, you can't have peace with Hitler. That's not a thing. Like you realize that, right? And no one does. So it's just really interesting when biopics do that to where you get to go into a moment, especially in history, and see what exactly happened and what transpired and what was said and who was on what side of history. I think it's really, really cool when it's done really well like that.
Yeah, I agree. I personally, for me, I'm more of a fan of whenever they cover a person's entire history. So like Walk
Really?
the
Okay.
Line,
Okay. Yeah.
they covered Johnny from the time he was a kid. And
Hmm.
because like especially with musicians, right? So with
Yeah.
Johnny, the events with his brother and everything led to his family home falling apart and led to his time in the Air Force, which led to him going through all this stuff. Obviously he was going through depression and stuff like that. And so he I mean, I think that it all just kind of the movie shows the root of where he came from and what really inspired his music to become how dark it was at the time.
Yeah, no, I'm for sure. Some stories definitely need to be told at the beginning to understand how we got to where we are now, 100 million bajillion%. But and like no one wants to be seeing Churchill's early days. I'm sure it wasn't anything spectacular or crazy. I'm sure he grew up in a very normal household and rose through the ranks like any other politician does. So there's definitely certain stories that you want to see how they came to be the person they were. And yeah, I feel like a lot of musicians, a lot of like sports, I'd say too. It's usually like that. Like a lot of sports is like they came from a bad home or they came from a bad area and they worked really hard to get out of that said area. And so it's nice to see the younger, and I think with the Johnny Cash story too, it is very important because that I mean his brother dying totally just changed the whole aspect of his life. It's like one of those multiverses things. I mean, not really, but it's just life. But it's just like one of those things where it's like that happened, and now his life is totally askew from what it would have been if that hadn't have happened. So
Yeah, and I definitely can agree with you though about how like the uh situational biopics where it's like covering a specific point of history. Uh
mhm.
because like sometimes it's not just about the person, it's about the impact of the events.
Yes,
So like
that's very true.
let's look at like The Social Network
Hmm.
with Jesse Eisenberg. Um yeah, it was about Zuckerberg, sure, but it wasn't just about Zuckerberg. It was about the people who started Facebook, which by the way, have you seen The Social Network?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. I don't like that movie. I I
Really?
don't I know I'm in the minority. I don't think I've ever seen another David Fincher film.
Yeah.
I think that's the only one I've seen. I'd have to look it up
Okay.
though. But I did not like it. I thought that it was hot garbage.
Damn. A
Well,
lot of people say that's the best biopic ever made.
it, I think they probably say that because it's probably one of the most accurate biopics ever made. But I
Yeah.
think that they were I think they were trying to make Mark Zuckerberg's story more interesting than it actually was. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I was, like, really fucking bored through a lot of it. And then B,
yeah,
as far as, like, a film goes, like, I didn't gel with it. So but that's, like, one of the biopics that I watched that kinda started me on the kick of biopics.
yeah,
Um, and so I thought that was interesting, and if we're talking about situational, um, I mean, in our current history, like the one that we are living in right now, that in 100 years people are going to be studying. It's like it is an interesting thing because it encapsulates pretty much the genesis of modern social media.
yeah.
If you look at the social network through that aspect, it is quite interesting. But other
Mhm,
than that, I don't know, man. I wasn't a fan of it. But I think that it's the kind of situational event story focused biopic that you're talking about, like with The Darkest Hour and stuff. It's Churchill
mhm,
focused on World War II. Um,
mhm.
didn't you watch I can't remember what it's called, this the one on Hitler.
I watched Downfall. I I I don't know if necessarily could call that a biopic. Like the first half is, but it carries on after he shoots himself. So, but it was real interesting just seeing that side of the story, and it is in German. So, and it's like that's a story only the Germans can really tell. So I just love that aspect of it. And yeah, I was just interested to see how crazy this guy was. I mean, and the dude who was playing Hitler, he did an amazing job. And he's one of those actors. Let me see if I can get his name. Like Bruno Ganz. He like got really famous after he died, actually. He was like pretty well known, but then he this is like what this downfall was one of his last roles, and he shortly passed away after it, and he got really, really famous after that for like not only downfall, but everyone just went into his whole like catalog and dove in and he got really, really popular. But he did an amazing job of portraying Hitler, and it was just it was really, really interesting and insightful to be in that bunker with all those Germans and seeing which ones were trying to like save the German common folk, the German people, because basically like they were sieging in on they were bombing this little city, and Hitler was just like, no, I'm not giving up, I'm not giving up. And like there was people would be like, you need to you need to let people go, you need to like cease fire, you need to like wave the white flag and let these people survive and get out of here. And he was like, no, if they were true to my cause and true to our cause, then they would have no problem dying with me. So therefore, I'm not gonna do that. And then he ends up just killing himself anyway. So I don't know, but it
What
was
a
really, really good.
what a
Yeah,
fucking madman, dude.
yeah, dude. And there's people even after he kills himself that they in turn kill themselves because they don't want to live in a world where he isn't the Fuhrer. And it's just like crazy how he had a hold of these people like that, and just like I don't know, like a lot of people didn't understand what he was doing with the Jewish community, and they didn't understand the camps and anything until it was like way later in the war, and then everyone was like, "What the fuck?" Like everyone knew he was like putting them in the ghettos and stuff, and they were like I'm not saying that people most of the people were on board with everything up until that, so it's like just crazy how he even got to that point, and then to end it all like that, it's just oh, it's very on par for him, I guess. But on the offhand of that, I watched Schindler's List, which like granted, I didn't really know anything about Schindler's List. I knew Spielberg did it. I hadn't really looked into it, and I recently picked it up on 4K, and it has Dolby Vision as well as like sound and stuff. So I was like, okay, well, I'm on this kick. I'm gonna check this out. And it was one of the most beautifully heartbreaking, amazing historical movies I have ever seen in my life. I think it is probably the best biopic. I just it moved me beyond words. I mean, I didn't even know this was a thing. Wasn't taught about it in school. I like didn't know who Schindler was. And then I sit down and watch this movie and it's just all unraveled for me. So I think biopics have a really strong voice in certain stories, you know?
They do. I'm just always hesitant to take them as gospel with because I mean Hollywood likes to embellish and take liberties and really make them more creative so it will
Mhm.
retain audiences. And I understand that to some aspect. Like
Mhm.
a lot of these are based on source material. But then when you look at a film like The Darkest Hour, which again, I haven't seen, but just based off of what you're telling me, um, nobody really knows what went on in that bunker, you know? So if it's focusing on Hitler in the bunker, like, yeah, we've supposedly found his body and stuff, but then there's all sorts of wild theories that honestly look more and more like truth not at this point about how like maybe he went to Argentina and shit. He fled to Argentina. Have you
Mhm.
heard that?
No, I haven't. And that's why I was saying I don't think Downfall is really a biopic because like they there's just they're in the and that's what I'm saying too because I think there was other people with him in the bunker per se, like the whole time. But then when he went away to shoot himself and shit, he was by himself. So I mean, I'm with you. It's a lot of hearsay with that. So I don't necessarily think Downfall was a biopic, but there are certain biopics that do like to embellish a lot. I mean, um, I
Sounds
watched
very speculative.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Definitely it's a writer adding to the story. It's a writer filling in the gaps of what he thinks is happening. So,
Right.
for sure. But I watched Amadeus and Amadeus is technically a biopic, but it's like based off like of a of like what you were kind of saying. It's based off of one person's viewpoint. So it's like how accurate is everything, but from a technical standpoint, Amadeus is like a biopic, which is interesting because I don't you don't even really know what's real and what's not. And people could watch that and be like, "Oh, like it's a biopic. Everything's accurate." And then take it as fact.
Well, I mean, like I said, Hollywood takes creative liberties, right? I mean,
Yeah,
look
yeah.
at I don't like bringing Mel Gibson into the conversation,
Uh-oh.
but made perhaps one of the most accurate biopics ever because it was straight from the Bible, the Passion of the Christ. I mean,
Yeah.
and I
It's
think
the
what?
I was gonna say how accurate's the Bible now, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's we're not here to speculate religion,
That's what I'm
but
saying, that's what I'm saying. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's word for word what happened in the Bible.
well, okay, so the reason that I actually like Passion as a film is because and I'm not religious personally, but I can find
Yeah.
like as a film fan, I can find things to like about it. Um I think that, it really shows the brutality of the crucifixion well. Like it makes you kind
Yeah.
of feel just even if you're not taking this is the Messiah getting crucified, you're seeing a human being,
Mhm.
the atrocities that are being slung at them, and it's like it's awful.
Yeah.
Um,
Very
so
intense.
I mean, there's biopics like that, and then I kind of want to know while we're on the topic of talking about biopics that take creative liberties, what do you think about movies that like really lean into taking the creative liberty? Like they might be based like tightly based on somebody or a time period, and then they just go far off into left field with it. Something like the new Elvis movie. Have you seen Elvis?
Yes, I have. Is that, like, pretty far off from I don't really know much about Elvis, so
So from what I know, it's very one-sided. Like
okay.
it's what's his name? Colonel Tom Parker, is that what his name was? The manager and stuff
It was
that
Colonel something.
that managed Elvis.
Yeah.
Um, Apparently that movie kind of tells his story wrong and stuff like that. But I mean, then it takes that story though, and it takes a lot of creative liberties and like makes it morphs it into a Hollywood blockbuster.
Yeah.
So what do you think about like when they take life or something that's rooted in real life or rooted in the real life of a person and then they completely embellish it to make it entertaining?
I mean, I feel like that that it's okay, but it definitely should come with like a warning label of like these events are like loosely based off of real events. Like, and I feel like a lot of movies do have that label, but it definitely needs that label because I think it causes for an interesting movie and it causes for interesting topics and discussions and like you said, blockbuster, so money.
Right.
And so as long as it's making money, but so I just think that as long as it's like stated that it's like embellished, then that's okay. And maybe hopefully the goal of the movie too is to be like, okay, that was really interesting, but I want to know what actually like happens to this person or event. So then you'll go on do your own research with actual historical references and be able to come to your own conclusions on what actually happened and what was embellished. Because that's kind of like Amadeus. Like Mozart was known to be like a womanizer and like kind of far out there and a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But he was like a prodigy from the age of like 4 or 6 or some shit like that. So it's like he embellishes on that, and it's told from a point of view of someone that doesn't like Mozart. So it's like it's obviously going to be skewed from there from the get go. So it's just like, did Mozart actually really laugh like that? Because his laugh was is crazy in that movie. It's so he's so like willy nilly. Like, was he actually like that, or is that just emphasized a little more in the movie to like you said to like get it to Hollywood standards? So it's like so you want to go and do your own research after that, basically. So I think they're good as long as they come with the warning label, and then you got to do your own research and make your own opinions about it. You know?
I think research is probably warranted for anything you read or watch out there. I mean,
Yeah,
history is written by the victors, and so there's always another side of the story to tell wherever you are, whatever story you're hearing. I mean, if you're reading a historical book about a person, if you're reading a book about George Washington, then if you want to get the full story, you might need to read multiple books about George Washington, you know?
yeah, for sure.
Um,
Two sides to every story.
I'm interested though about this Amadeus picture you're telling me about. So
Hmm.
whose perspective is it from? Is it from Beethoven's perspective? Or Mozart's
No,
perspective, I mean?
no, it's from this. It's funny. It's like from his rival Salvador, I think is his name. It's Salva something. I'm gonna look it up real quick. But he is telling they're like rivals, but Mozart doesn't know they're rivals because he never like told them. But like deep down in his like in his loins, he's never liked Mozart because Mozart was so talented and no one really saw it, but fucking Salvador or whatever his name is. Got it. I'm almost there. But so no one realized it because Mozart likes to use a lot of notes. And back then, Antonio Salieri is his name. And he's like the what's it, emperor, the king. He's his like oh his very own like conductor, and he makes sure everything is okay. And they're trying to see if Mozart can be brought on to help them and make music for them, and everyone's a little hesitant on him, but he's like, no, he's really really good. But everyone doesn't like him because it's so many notes, and everyone's not used to it, and like they don't like it. They're like, oh, it's like too much. So like people are hesitant about him, but so deep down, Salieri he hates Mozart, and he like tries to like mess up his career path, and because Mozart's also one of those people that didn't get famous until he died. Like he was the most like unfamous conductor of that period. Like no one even really knew who he was. Like he tried so hard to get up there and it just didn't work out cuz no one was buying into his art except for salary. So that was it was just really cool to like get a perspective for someone that like respects the living hell out of someone's artwork, but like doesn't like the person behind it. Because Mozart was a womanizer and kind of like a piece of shit in a way. But so yeah, it's from his perspective. So
Well,
it's like it's like he's on his deathbed. It's like he's like basically dying. Salary is, and a pope comes in to hear him do his
like
what's the
last
word?
last sacrament or whatever.
Yeah, and like anything he wants to say that he did or anything, you
Confessional.
know, confessional. It's like a last confessional, and he's telling him the story of Amadeus, basically.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
I got you. So if this is that makes me wonder then how much of that is creative liberty because they're showing.
yeah.
So was this Salvatore whatever his name guy, was he a real
Yeah.
person?
See,
I know
that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't even know. Let me Google that shit. But no, it definitely takes its liberties. It's not like a historical accurate like in the sense of
I
like
know
maybe like names.
I know next to nothing about classical music, or the composers within, but it just makes me wonder, even if this guy was a real person,
Yeah,
if this
he was a real person. He was a
okay,
real person.
so if this story is from his perspective and he's telling the story and he hates Mozart, or it's like, maybe he's embellishing his womanizing history and stuff. I mean, maybe he's
Oh yeah,
making
yeah, yeah.
him out to be more of a piece of shit than he actually was because
Hmm.
he's inherently biased against him. So it's like, I think that, like, when you're talking about people twisting history, and then telling a movie about how people twisted history, that's another like layer on the onion as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and he also taught Mozart when Mozart was like a young child. I forgot to mention that too. He taught him, and then he didn't see him when he like turned 7 or 8 or something, and he left, and then he didn't see him again until he was like 20 or so, and so he's like pissed that that Mozart doesn't really remember him at first. So there's a bunch of like small things that but yeah, no, it's definitely a lot of it's probably way more embellished. It's like a supposed to be, yeah, like a Hollywood fun movie. It's a 3 hour movie. It was pretty long, but it was really really good, and I know a lot of people like rave about this movie. But yeah, it's like all of this was like it's like a rumor too. It's like a theory almost of like, oh, like celery had like a rivalry with Mozart, and but like no one knows for sure, so then a writer took this like idea, and he writes about it, and then they make this movie. So it's like the names are real, but it's like how these people are might not be the most accurate. And that's like the different version of biopics. Like that's why I say Schindler's List. Like I really truly feel in my bones there is no Hollywood bullshit in that movie. That is Spielberg, a Jewish man, taking something of history that was the most historical worst thing genocide ever, and he's taking that and turning it into his art, and I feel like he took that so seriously, and I feel like he was very like heavy handed on what goes in and what doesn't, and what makes the story and what doesn't, you know what I'm saying? So I just feel like there are super accurate ones, but there are also, like you said, there are so many out there that love the Hollywood, that they need to make money. Yes, it is a historical a piece of art, but like we need this to make money, so we need to embellish the story to make it work for Hollywood. And I truly feel like they don't do that for Schindler's List.
So that kind of like, I've never seen Schindler's List. Was Schindler a real person? I guess I don't know anything about
Yeah.
this.
So the story of Schindler's List is Schindler is a German man and he comes over to Poland, I believe, when they start basically putting Jewish people in the ghetto is like around the time where he shows up. And he is trying to get rich and so he makes a factory that is like he makes pots and pans and metalwork basically for the war. And at the time, Jewish people were still allowed to work while they lived in the ghetto, but they were half the price of a Poland worker. So Schindler used all the Jewish workers for his factory so he could save money on the labor and was making so much money, so much money at the time. And then so it goes on, carries on, and they when they started moving Jewish people from the ghetto into like the concentration camps, he basically moved his factory. He like paid to like make a new factory and set it up near the concentration camp, and then he would get his workers back in. And basically like all the Jewish people wanted to work for Schindler because Schindler didn't like hurt anyone. He didn't kill anyone. Once they cleared the ghettos and they realized, okay, people we're just dying now. Like we're just being shot. We're this is it. And once they get in the concentration camps, it gets even worse, obviously. So everyone's trying to work for Schindler because they know they're safe with Schindler. Schindler only cares about making money, and he sees what's wrong with the war, but he doesn't. There's not a turning point for him where he understands what he's doing is for good, and he wants to do that until they clear out the ghettos, and this movie is in black and white, and there's a girl, a little small girl that has a red jacket, and the jacket is in color, and it's the only color shot in the whole movie, and it's like a turning point for Schindler because he realizes the atrocities that are happening and he understands how he can help. So then basically when they start taking all the concentration camps and they just send him to Auschwitz to literally die and burn, Schindler makes a list with the person that was in charge of the concentration camps. He makes a list for them, and he basically was like, "What's your price per person? What would you pay per person?" And basically, Schindler makes this whole list of over 1,000 people, and he pays for all of them. All that money he made that whole time with the war and the pots and the pans, he uses that money and buys all of his workers. So instead of them going to Auschwitz, they go and work. They go back to Poland, or actually they go back to wherever Schindler is from, and he has his own home grounds there, his own factory there, and they go back with him instead of going to Auschwitz. So they start working for him because he bought all of them, and he technically works for the Nazi regime. So it all P's and Q's. It's okay. And then when they get back home, Schindler starts making like artillery stuff, but it's all faulty. None of it works. And he keeps on sending it to the German units, and they keep on being like, yo, we're about to inspect you. None of this shit's working. So then he like goes and buys artillery stuff from other people, from other artillery workers and manufacturers. And he gets that, so he sells that to them, so he does not look so suspicious, not 100% are faulty, but still there's being less artillery made by him buying those. So he's not making any fucking money anymore. He's lost it all. And then basically at the end of the war, when it finally happens and Jewish people are like released and free, he ends up saving 1,200 Jewish people. And at the time, like left in Europe, like after it's all said and done, there's only 4,000 Jewish people left. They killed 6 million Jewish people, and he saved 1/4 of the Jewish population, basically.
That's
But
absolutely harrowing, bro.
dude, it is one of the like another 3 hour movie, but it is so good and it is so beautifully done and told so well and told so real. And like I really like that it was done in black and white because it was very like it was just like dude, it's just a lot of innocent blood is spilled, and you can't really the blood doesn't pop out as much on a black and white. You can definitely tell that it's blood, but it doesn't have that same effect. And I feel like that was really good for the story because he definitely still made it very raw. Like people were dying all the time, and it was very bad. And it's just I feel like with the black and white, you could just kind of like get through it better in a way. But yeah, he did this other thing too where he kept on showing everyone's faces. He kept on calling out names. There were several points in the movie where names were being called out or names were being given, and I think that was amazing thing to do because it gives everyone a name. It gives everyone like these are people. This is a person that is normal, that had a life, that is just like me and you, and you like seeing all their faces and stuff. It's just it is, yes, it is harrowing. It is crazy. I highly recommend it. It's one of those things where you watch once and you probably won't watch ever again because it's a lot.
I need to definitely watch it. I've let's see, Schindler's List I believe was one of the first ever 4K movies that I ever bought, and I still haven't watched it. And
Beautiful.
it's because of how long it is, and I've heard it's really long
Hmm.
and drawn out and stuff. But I've heard it's amazing. I mean, it won that was Spielberg's first ever Oscar. So
Yep.
I mean, it's an Oscar winning movie. It's I know it's good. I know I just need to take the time to sit
Yeah.
down and watch it.
I mean, yeah, it is long, but I think it's very worth it. And as far as the 3 hour movie goes, I think it is very smooth. I don't feel like it drags at any point. I think everything that needed to be said was necessary. So I'm just so beautifully shot. The score is so moving. I mean, I don't know. It is one of the deepest, sincere stories I've seen in a very long time. But yeah, I mean, there's so many different. I mean, even like a mockumentary, like there's like stuff like that out there too, you know. So it's like I don't know. You can
Yeah,
really, where do you draw the line, you know?
I want to peel the onion back even more, and now we're gonna get into silly territory.
Okay.
We're gonna circle back around to more serious stuff, but right now I want to talk about movies based on real people that are outrageously fictitious.
Yes.
Movies like Abraham Lincoln versus Vampires,
Oh yeah, baby.
where it does kind of tell the real story of Abraham Lincoln.
In a
It's
way, yes, it does.
half biopic, half horror comedy.
I didn't even think about that, bro. I love that fucking movie.
I do too. It's been a really long time since I've seen it,
Oh
but
my god.
like it's actually legitimately a
Mm.
fun movie to watch.
It's a fun movie. I watch it once a year. I just love watching Abraham Lincoln swing around this axe and murking vampires. Okay, like what is there not? By day he's a president. By night he's a vampire hunter. What is there not to love about that?
It was such a good fucking movie, dude. But I loved how it had historical accuracies in it. Like
It did.
it told the
Yes.
story of his campaign, his presidential
Hmm.
campaign, and his
Hmm.
presidency, and up to his assassination. And like, it's
Even what he was doing before that, like where he was and how he was working at that shop, like that actually, like all that stuff was accurate too. So
yeah,
it is really cool how they mended all this fun, crazy sci-fi horror elements into a president historical life. Like it's really cool. Even like in the I don't know if this is the movie because I read the book too, but in the book they even kind of go further. They like stay on his childhood a little longer because I think in the movie you only see like the beginning of like how his mom turned into a vampire and everything. But in the book you get more of him like living out in like Kentucky, I think that's where it was, or Indiana, and like kind of living in those cabins with his dad and family, and his like dad gets remarried and stuff. Like so yeah, it's pretty that movie is so much fun. It has no business being that fun, but also you learn a little bit too, you know? What a great adventure.
yeah. I think that movies like that are a really good tool for history because you can tell a kid, a teenager, like, hey, watch this movie and then enjoy it for what it is. But then
Yeah.
if you remove the vampires from this, it's pretty damn historically accurate. It's a learning tool.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you could assign this shit for homework, man. If I was a teacher, I'd be showing this shit in fucking, school, like on the
Yeah.
last day of school, this would be the fucking movie to watch, bro.
Yeah, you roll on that TV, everyone loses their mind.
Nowadays I don't think they do that anymore. I think they just
No,
turn on
projected
the
onto
turn on the
the
smart board.
Yeah.
God, dude. It's
It
been
kinda reminds me you saying that, it's not exactly the same thing. It's, like, kinda the opposite of where, like, the story itself is, like, totally make believe, but, like, the the facts that are in there are historical is National Treasure. It's like everything that they're talking about is like all the historical elements. That's all like accurate as shit. But obviously, like the treasure aspect is a little loosey goosey. But like, I mean, as far
hey,
as like
we
then
we don't know though. We don't know.
we
There
don't.
could be some shit on the back of the Declaration of Independence, man. We don't
It
fucking
could
know.
be.
I watched that
Oh
movie
shit.
recently, actually, because it's one of my favorites from my childhood.
Hmm.
Um,
Same.
it's a really great Nicolas Cage movie. I love Nicolas
Oh
Cage.
yeah.
And I was watching it, and I was like, man, this fucking shit still holds up. It's
Yeah, it's
still
good.
so
It's a
good,
good
bro.
ride.
It's still such a good movie. It's filled with history. It's a love letter to American history, and I
Yes.
fucking love that movie, man.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a lot of fun.
and then okay, so let's peel back another layer. Let's talk about based on a true story.
Okay, yes.
So a film where the characters might not be real and the situations are just kind of loosely based, right?
Mhm.
Look at a movie like 8 Mile.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That's a great example.
when you have, like, when we're talking hip hop, there are 4 biopics that are probably the most popular. 8 Mile about
Yeah.
Eminem,
Mhm,
All Eyes on Me about Tupac,
mhm,
Notorious about Biggie Smalls,
mhm.
and Straight Outta Compton.
Oh, yeah.
So All Eyes on Me, Notorious, and Straight Outta Compton are all fairly accurate. Straight Outta Compton is probably more accurate because it's actually produced by Dr. Dre and Ice Cube.
Yeah,
So I mean, when it's produced by the guys that were there, I mean that's saying something. But
yeah, for sure.
8 Mile, it takes its creative liberties to make it more Hollywood. It probably plays more on Eminem being the white guy surrounded by black folk, uh, and dealing with that. It probably embellishes it more.
Mhm.
And it honestly, I think it makes Detroit look a lot worse than it is.
Yeah.
Um, but
They're
because
like,
like
"We
you,
gotta really get it across that Detroit's not good, okay, guys?
yeah,
Like,
we got to make
no
Eminem look.
fighting."
We got to make Eminem look super hard, like he came from these hard streets, which no doubt he did. Like, I mean, Detroit's
It's
not.
definitely poor.
Yeah, I mean, Detroit probably doesn't have the greatest. We could ask Zed about this. Zed literally lives in Detroit. Like, I'll have to bring Zed on and talk about fucking 8 Mile one day.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, so like, it builds this world, and these, Rabbit is obviously based off of Eminem. Future's
Mhm,
based off of his best friend who actually did pass away. Which, fun fact, I found out that Eminem's best friend, his like DJ producer guy that passed away. I found this out the other day. Is buried in Detroit in this tomb that is like made like for African American like important people, right? So
mm.
like it's the Rosa Parks, like it's her foundation's tomb, and Rosa Parks buried there. And
Wow.
so yeah, it's like this like little mausoleum type thing. And so the guy who Future was based off of in 8 Mile is buried there, like amongst Rosa Parks, which is wild to me.
Yeah,
Um
that's crazy.
but and then in the same cemetery fucking Aretha Franklin's buried.
Wow.
So, but yeah, so 8 Mile is one of those that's like super embellished. I love that movie though. I love that
Yeah, it's a
movie.
good movie, yeah.
Do
The ending of that movie is lit.
Yeah, dude. That final rap battle, it's
Yeah,
like
I
the
know something that you don't know.
yeah. You went to Cranbrook, dog. That's a
Yeah,
private school.
his real name
Uh,
is Clarence.
dude, I cannot look at a movie with
It's
that
like
guy in
such
it
the funny fucking name. It's
every
like they
time.
picked the whitest fucking name they could have
Yes,
thought of, bro.
bro. Every time I
Uh,
see that actor, I can't ever remember his name, but every time I gotta make the comment. So if like, I was like, that's not Falcon. His real name's
yeah.
Clarence.
That's not the new Captain America. That's Clarence.
Dude, I freaking. Well, I mean, it's the same thing with the guy who played Greg Buell in that movie, the,
Oh, yeah.
the guy that's nailing his mom. And so every time I
Yeah.
see him, like I even commented this, like when he had that episode of the Criterion Closet, I
Oh, yeah.
commented, I was like, "That's Greg Buell. Me, him, and you, we went to the same school." Oh my
Dude,
god,
that's
dude.
hilarious. Dude, I have another one that I'm, like, staring at right now that's kind of probably the same way where it's based off of, like, see, I feel like this it's I don't know if it's based off a real person or not because I wanna say it is, but Van Helsing, because that's an old folk tale, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I would consider. I mean, because obviously every folktale is is rooted in a real person. I mean, Count Dracula is rooted in the real Vlad the Impaler and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So I mean, like if there was a real Vlad the Impaler, there was probably a real Van Helsing. I don't know. The audience might know a little more about this because I don't know the history about Van Helsing, but I
I
don't
don't
know if
either.
we consider those biopics.
No, no,
Like,
not at all. I'm just talking about, like, even, oh, dude, just thought of one that was a good one that you're talking about, like, 8 Mile and stuff, and now I can't remember it. You 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 say something while I think.
do 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 do
I really
do
don't think it
do
oh,
do do.
War Dogs, War Dogs.
War Dogs. Okay, so I haven't seen that, but hey, my Jeopardy thing worked.
It
Fuck
did,
yeah.
it did.
War Dogs.
W w
Is that the one with Jonah Hill in it?
and Teller, yeah, it's, like, about them selling like guns and ammunitions and shit to like other countries and terrorist groups and shit, just like selling them to whoever wants to buy them. But that's based off of a real story. But that's also one of those things where I guarantee you they embellished a little bit for their Hollywood structure. But it is definitely those two dudes are real, and they did what they did, and they like because at the end they tell them because they like everything, dude. They get caught. I mean, it's kind of like Lord of War. Lord of War is the same way. Lord of War is based off a real person. Um, but War Dogs, these two guys, yeah, they ended up getting caught, and it tells you how long they served and what their punishments were and everything, but so it's like basically like the rise and fall of them. So that one's pretty cool too. I actually like that one. Jonah Hill's pretty good in that one. He definitely plays a character that he doesn't usually play. So it's kind of see him. He's like an alpha dog in that, and he's definitely not really known to be like an alpha dog kind of guy. So it's interesting to see him in that role. Because like
Yeah.
there's a scene where he's trying to get information off someone, or he might be trying to buy some druggies, but these guys are punking him, and they're kind of like trying to like whisk him off and calling him a bitch and stuff, and he uh he like goes to the back of his car and pulls out like a semi-automatic gun and starts shooting it all over the place, and I was just like totally unhinged. I'm like, did that actually happen? Because that's fucking crazy. There's like no way.
Yeah, it's kind of
It's like
like
broad daylight.
a couple other movies that are like a bit like that are like Pain and Gain. Have you ever seen that with Mark
Yeah,
Wahlberg and
I
The
saw that
Rock?
once. I saw that once when it released, and I don't know if I'll ever see that one again.
I liked it a lot. I thought it was funny.
Actually, I might. No, like, I'm not saying that it's bad. It was fucking ridiculous, man. Because
Yeah.
I kid you not, like, I literally have not seen that since it released, and I'm like kind of slowly remembering. Isn't there a scene where they're like trying to like just decide what to do with the body, and they're like, it's like this whole fucking ordeal.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah,
Rebel
okay, yeah,
Wilson's
check that out.
there and shit, and
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I might need to rewatch that one,
it
but
was
it's
funny.
so fried. Yeah, it's funny. It's definitely funny, but it like made me like sad because I was like, is this actually like this like really happened?
Well, okay, so I just looked it up because I knew that it was kinda based on a true story. Apparently, it's the screenplay is by Christopher Marcus and, Stephen McFeely, and the screenplay is adapted from a 1999 series of Miami New Times articles by Pete Collins, which were compiled in the book Pain and Gain: This Is a True Story, and that book of those articles was released concurrently with the film. Um,
Mhm.
so, I mean, it's kinda sounds like, tabloid stories a little bit, but I mean, they probably do have some truth to them.
Yeah, for sure. You know what I thought was like a true story when I was young and watched the movie, but obviously it's not, and I was just young and stupid.
What?
Project X.
Project X.
Yeah, you did not see that when you were younger?
No.
It was like prime. It came out when I was like 13 or 14. Project X is about this kid that throws the biggest party ever and like hundreds and hundreds of people, and it's like shot from like found footage. It's like on a handheld camera, and it just gets so fucking out of hand, and like the cops are called, like the SWAT team. There's like a huge fire. It's like so crazy. And like when I was in high school, that's when the movie dropped, and everyone was like, who's gonna throw the Project X party? Who's gonna be throwing the party that's like Project X? And it was like this whole like everyone's like trying to go after and like recreate this like movie and shit. It was like a huge thing when I was in high school. It was crazy.
Yeah, dude, no, I haven't seen that. I think I might have been a little too young for that boat at the time.
It was it's not like the best of movies, but it's fun, and it's like shot on that found footage type vibe, and it's not too long either, but it's a great like young adult movie. It was a lot of fucking fun. Like it goes off the rails, bro. The ending is just ridiculous.
Nice,
But
nice,
I
yeah.
was I was I always thought that was real. I was like, man, can't believe they actually did that shit. That's crazy.
Wait, so did you think that it was based on a true story, or did you think that, like, the found footage of it was actual real found footage?
Correct, I thought it was actual real found footage.
Okay. Okay. Well,
I was
geez,
young
it's
and stupid.
I can't imagine how crazy scared you were when Paranormal Activity came out. Shit.
Well, that and, God, we're going off the rails, but, Chronicle, have you ever seen Chronicle?
Yeah, dude, about the superpowers and shit. Oh my god.
Yeah, dude, that shit is hard.
Dude, we could make a whole fucking episode on found footage.
I'll put it in the books. We'll save
Yeah.
that for later. We'll get a list of movies together, and we'll have to watch a couple of them because
Oh, yeah.
there's some good found footage movies out there. I mean, Blair Witch is found footage, right? I'm remembering correctly.
Yes, the first
I
one
haven't
is.
seen that. Yeah, I haven't seen the first one in forever. Was that like one of the first big like first found footage films to like do really good? I don't really know where found footage films
Yeah,
came from.
it wasn't the first, but it was, like, the first one to have major commercial success, to, like, break into the
Okay.
mainstream.
Yeah. Because Cloverfield is another really good found footage movie, I think. I like Cloverfield a lot.
I own that one, and I saw it when I was in high school, but I don't remember it. I know it's about, like, an alien invasion, but, like, that's about
Yeah,
it.
but yeah, they don't show the alien invasion though. That's what I feel like is like really cool. Like a lot of people are upset about that fact, which I understand. But like I think it's really cool that you're just like in the shits with this group of people while everything is going down, and you yourself are like in the dark of what's happening. So it kind of like adds a little more tension to the movie.
That's cool, yeah. And it's got 2 sequels, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I don't 10 Cloverfield Lane, that's not found footage though, is it? That's, like, actually cinematic, right?
No, that's actually cinematic. Yeah.
I heard John Goodman is excellent in that movie, dude.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since it released. I need to rewatch that one.
So
But yeah, Split.
I was looking at something real quick. When we were on the topic of the World War II biopics, I was like,
Mhm.
I wonder how accurate Inglorious Bastards is.
Oh, yeah?
And apparently it's not based on a true story, but the characters in it are based on real people.
Really? That's
Apparently,
actually
yeah.
kinda that's actually kinda more interesting to me. Are these people actually like how they were? Was there someone just bashing Nazi brains in with a baseball bat? Like, I need to know more,
You
please.
know what though? I'm absolutely 100% sure that the United States military did have really badass big burly dudes that went in that were just blood hungry for fucking Nazi guts and just went
Yeah,
were going
went
in and
fucking crazy.
yeah, dude. I mean, the atrocities of war will drive men to commit awful things against each other, you
Mhm,
know? I mean, look at Apocalypse Now.
mhm,
That Apocalypse
mhm.
Now is another good one. It's a biopic of the time period. It's not
Yeah,
a true story,
mhm.
but it's like it captures Vietnam very well, you know?
Oh, so well. God, that was what a mess that was. It really truly showed how unorganized and how meaningless that war really was to us because lives were just being wasted there, unfortunately. Sad
Yep.
to say.
Human beings
Um,
thrown as fodder, bro. That
mhm.
awful. Awful.
You know, another one that's kind of like that, I guess, in a way, is Dunkirk. It's not necessarily about one person, it's about an event, but that event itself is very true. It's very, very real and historical. And I love Dunkirk. I understand a lot of people were upset because they thought they were going to watch like a war movie. You're going to watch people fight and stuff because they didn't understand what the Battle of Dunkirk was. Battle of Dunkirk wasn't really a battle, it was an escape. It was a these are our last men that we have over in Europe, and like we need to get them out of here. Germany has pushed them to literally the edge of of the land, and it was like a last ditch effort to save all those lives. And like two, like I think he Christopher Nolan did an amazing job of getting it across with these like men that like they were stuck. Like they themselves thought they weren't going to live. They thought they were going to die. And then they're trying to just survive themselves. That's why like you see like people jumping off boats, people jumping on boats, people like doing whatever they can to like get the fuck off there because Germany is about to be there in a couple hours. So I thought that was really really cool and really really well done and a cool way to make a movie that's in a time period, but not necessarily about one individual, which is what you were saying about Apocalypse Now too. So
Well,
I think,
another good one is a movie that you and I both like adore and that we have like on this show on our TikToks have like gone through and recommended it so many times and that's Come and See,
oh yeah,
which is a
hmm,
great I mean, I'm sure that the story that it tells as a little boy and stuff is probably the story for many boys, you know?
right, yeah,
And
hmm,
it's like they chose that one pivotal character to show that, but I mean, it's the story of many shown by one character. But I mean, that movie shows the atrocities of the Nazis when they invaded uh,
hmm,
Belarus. So I
hmm.
mean, it's an insanely harrowing story. We were talking about that on live the other day, man, and I think we probably sold probably 10 or 20 people on getting the Criterion copy of it.
Really,
Yeah,
that's
me
awesome,
and my buddy
good.
Brandon were talking about it, man. Um,
Yeah, it talk about harrowing. I mean, that has to be one of the most like raw like war movies,
yeah.
anti-war movies that I've ever seen. Just it's like there's a moment of the movie where it's in the beginning and they get bombed basically and he loses his hearing and it's like this high pitched noise so you know like he loses his hearing and then you go through the movie and you can tell he still doesn't have his hearing. And then when he gets it back finally is when they find the rest of the town because they can't find anyone and they go to that where everyone is like all huddled up in the middle of that land and everyone's like moaning and groaning and crying and then that's when he kind of gets his hearing back and that was like dude, I was like what the fuck is happening right now? I was just like this is so intense and
Mhm.
like but in a way like nothing is happening but everything is happening and it was so intense and for him to regain his hearing at that point in time and then being overstimulated by all these people and he doesn't know where his family is and it's just
Yeah, and
Oh my god.
he's been shell shocked.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Quite literally, you know?
Yeah, like that movie is one that's like so crazy because it's like it plays with the viewer's emotions really
Mhm.
bad. Like because one minute, you know, it's heroics and and it can be heartwarming and it can be
Mhm.
wholesome, like when he's like with the girl and stuff, the little girl. And
Yeah.
then the next, it's like showing you absolutely atrocious scenery, and it's
Yeah.
awful, and it makes you feel like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that I can't believe I'm part of a species that committed these awful acts." Like, I feel
Yeah.
disgusted to be a human being that's capable of
100%.
doing that shit. So,
Like, I didn't even understand when I watched that when they, like the Nazis actually, like, invade and there's a lot of them that they're literally, like, slowly, like, herding these people together to do what they end up doing, and it's just sickening and crazy and wild, and I also think about how, like, phones weren't a thing then too, so it's like, in order like so, like, they leave and they have the orders of fucking kill everyone, kill everything, invade, do whatever you need to be done, and like that's their orders until someone gets a letter there. So it's like the who knows? Like Hitler could have died, and then a month later they get this letter, and they're like, "Oh well, we've been killing people for a whole month extra. My bad."
right.
Like, like what the like who knows? Who knows? But yeah, that is also one of those movies that like I love like yeah, I love what you said about, maybe it's not this one particular boy story, but multiple boys, girls, multiple children's stories. And I love that it's a child because it's the most innocent viewpoint you could have during a
Mhm.
war. And that's what it is. It's true innocence of not knowing what is fucking happening until it starts happening. And then you're like, just more and more, and that's why I love how he's centered on the title "Come and See" because
Yeah,
it's like come and see what
yeah.
fucking happened, man. And he wanted to name the movie like "Fuck Hitler" or something like that, but they wouldn't let him.
It would have been an evenly, impactful title for sure.
Yeah. The ending of that is really good. I thought that was really artistic way to end with the boy, shooting the picture of Hitler and the having the flashbacks of the rise and fall of Hitler and Germany and Nazi Germany in the background. That was artistic as all hell, but so powerful.
Dude, alright, so you're making me also wanna do a fucking episode on war pics with you.
Dude, I've been on a tear. I mean, I saw The Darkest Hour, I saw Schindler's List, I saw The Thin Red Line. The Thin Red Line might be one of my new all-time favorite war movies. It is unbelievably good. Just because that's Terrence Malick. That was my first Terrence Malick movie, and I know he's a real like he's heavy on emotions. He loves pulling emotions out from people, and that's what this one is about. It's about a regiment that is supposed to be pushing this island basically and take this line that we have so we can start landing our airplanes on there so we can start taking the fight to Japan because it's at the end of World War II. And he just dives into these psyches of these soldiers and how what was waiting for them back home or what was happening back home and who these people are. They're not just soldiers, and like the fear that he like made you realize was just outstanding because I feel like a lot of these war movies it's so hard to like accurately like get like the depiction of war. All the sets have to be so good, and it's just so much goes into it. It obviously can't be totally perfect, but like with this one, I feel like the set itself was simplistic because it's just an island, so it's just like nature, and he plays on the nature so well too. So it's like that dude, one of my new favorites, man. The Thin Red Line.
I'll,
Also one of those things where it could damn near be a biopic in a way where it's that those events actually happen, like whether or not these exact people did these exact things, that's hearsay, but like that actual event happened, and it changed the way the war was going by us being able to set up shop closer to Japan.
That's one that I'll definitely add to my list to watch. But yeah, dude, let's do a war episode. Talk about Civil War, World War II, World War One, Vietnam.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of movies that I love that are like military movies that I would love to
Yeah.
discuss. Gettysburg, it's an amazing
Mhm.
movie. Hacksaw
Um,
Ridge, uh,
Glory's really good too.
Fury, 1917.
Fury is good. 1917 is amazing. 1917 so good.
Have you seen the new All Quiet on the Western Front, the
Oh,
Netflix one?
yeah. Yes.
It was
Yes.
insanely good.
Insanely good.
Then of course Full Metal Jacket, Apocalypse
Yeah.
Now, uh,
Oh.
Jarhead's a good one.
There's one that I've been dying to see that I have in my collection that I haven't gotten to. It's, The Hurt Locker. It won a decent amount of awards and everything, so I'm trying to watch that soon, but there's so many war movies out there, and there's some more movies that suck, but I feel like if you get it right, man, I feel like they can be so moving and powerful and cool and awesome and just like really, really good stories and really, really good movies. I mean, Saving Private Ryan is amazing. I mean, it's just I feel like there is a lot of good war movies out there that could be talked about. Hmm.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. There soon enough there will be a big war episode with Drew and I. We're definitely gonna talk about that because I personally love American history and I love war movies. So
Mhm.
we will we will definitely talk about that. But we have been going for over an hour now, so I am going to go ahead and wrap this. Drew, did you have any final thoughts on biopics and stuff like that?
Yeah, so biopics are awesome. Take them with a grain of salt on occasions. Make sure you do your research with everything that you do, and furthermore, just enjoy the movie. You know.
I think that's an important lesson is that, yeah, at the heart of it, it's still a film. And even though it might be showing something that's really heavy subject material, it's like films are still meant to be enjoyed. They're meant to provide education. So, but yeah, research. Don't take Hollywood as gospel.
Yes.
All right,
Please don't.
everybody. Have a great week. What an episode, man. Biopics are always super fun to discuss and even more fun to watch. We would like to thank everyone who has been listening along and would like to remind you to go ahead and follow Masters of Matinee on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Special thanks to this week's co-host, Drew, who can be found on TikTok at Doobie Movie. Don't forget that all four masters are now on Letterboxd. Come and see what kind of movies we've been watching, and be sure to leave a comment and let us know that you're listening to the show. Their links can be found in the description. Remember to also follow me on TikTok and YouTube at JT the Talking Head. Thank you all so much for listening to this awesome collaborative effort of four guys who just want to talk about the things they love, movies and physical media. Be sure to join us next week and every single week on Blues Day Tuesday. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next week.